Welcome back to Bunters Yard and the Tuesday tutorial. Today we're doing old wood on the deck of this this bogey bolster A. And the first thing I need to do is just rough the surface up a little bit. Normally these wooden decks have some sort of wood grain on them, but this one doesn't seem to for whatever reason. So we're just going to rough it up, just sort of key it in a little bit so it gives the paint something to stick to and gives us maybe just a tiny amount of texture. It's not essential, just something I chose to, I thought I'd do on this particular one. But most of these you wouldn't need to. Now I'm using a wire brush here. You can use the end of a craft knife or a rough sandpaper, whatever you choose to use. And for weathering this, we're going to use these colours. These are from a kit. I think this is Old Wood 2, I think it's called, from AK Interactive. And there's several colours in there. I think there's 7 in the kit, seem to remember. We're just going to use 3 of those, a couple of the greys and the mid brown, which is quite a light brown. Obviously faded wood isn't really nicely brown, it's going to be this, you know, faded colour and going into the greys and the silver palettes. So so this is going to be our base colour. So we're just going to give the deck a coat of this to start with. Now we haven't got to be too precise with this, which is good for me. So we just really want to get the colour on, just to get rid of that brown. We don't need too much of the brown left now. These, I've got a new set of brushes. It's unlike me to spend money on brushes. I normally just have the cheapest I can find, but I thought I'd treat myself. I don't tend to look after the brushes too well, so I thought if I spent a little bit of money I might actually take more care. I'm not sure, but this is quite a nice kit. I'll put the link down below if I can find my order from Amazon for these. But in there's lots of these flat brushes and some really fine brushes which will come in useful. We'll get one a bit later on in this build. But they seem quite nice brushes actually, so check them out if you're in the market for a set of nice brushes. So we're just going to carry on around the model, just add in this this tan colour on, and then we can get started with the rest of the colours after that. Now these dry really quickly, these pre-mixed, so we can go from one to another pretty swiftly. So once that's dry, and literally just, you know, a few minutes, it doesn't take too long, we'll start with the other colours. As you saw, this is one of the greys, and this is one of the smaller brushes from that kit. And we don't want to paint the whole plank. We don't necessarily want to do every plank, and even particularly neatly. So maybe just a patch here and there. I'm trying to be as random as I can. I've just used one shade of grey for this. You may want to use the darker one as well and kind of alternate them or mix them up a little bit. Then once they're on, we just need to get rid of that edge. So cotton bud or a brush, and do it from the outside in, otherwise you'll drag the grey patch and make it even bigger, and that's not what we're after. So just adding that grey sort of patch down the middle and trying to leave the edges with a little bit of a darker wood showing. And we'll just continue along the model, again just trying to be random. I haven't used a great deal of paint on the brush, just enough to do the bit that I want really. We don't want it flooding all over the place like that. So some of the planks will be grey all the way across, some will have a patch in the middle, some will have just you know, half here and there. So trying to be random. Actually, random's quite a difficult thing to achieve if you've ever tried. So again, we get the cotton bud, and we'll just blend the edges in just a little bit. So our next colour is another grey. It's just very, the shade lighter. I'm just going to add a few highlights in here and there. Now the contrast on the video, it doesn't show up too well. It will dry much brighter, so it'll be obviously clearer once it dries. But definitely a stage worth doing. So just adding in the odd patch here and there, and maybe around the edges of the plank is a good place to go. Now with lots of things like what we do with weathering, they always look a bit not totally right until you get near the end, and then suddenly it'll all be pulled together by something. So fingers crossed for this one, we'll get there in the end. So just going to continue adding in that light grey. And then we've got, this is a Panzer dark grey, and we're just kind of simulating maybe some knots in the wood and some cracks that are starting to appear. You don't need too many of this. Again, just try and be random. Maybe have a look at some reference images, and you'll get an idea of the sort of thing that you need to include. The brush is pretty dry here. We're not putting hardly any paint on there at all. You could actually do this with a dry brush. If you've used that technique before, we've shown it in some videos before. We're just trying to simulate the knots and the cracks in the wood, and they would naturally, if the wood is going to go light grey, the knots would normally be a darker shade of the grey. So that's why we're using dark grey. So our last stage is some weathering powders. Now I've chosen my Humbrol Dark Earth because it's my favourite, and we really don't want too much on the brush. Just be careful. Weathering powders, they if you get too much on, it's difficult to get them off once it's on the model, especially if the paint is fairly new like this. So we're just going to go along around the edges and some random planks here and there, and that's it, pretty much done. So I've done the rest there, and then you'll see in the next shot that the whole wagon has been finished, weathered, and you can hopefully see the final effect. So I hope that's been useful to you. Another tutorial next Tuesday at 5 PM. So until then, stay safe, and we'll see you very soon.